Greetings, art fans. This is Peter Williams, but you can call me Professor Pete. In the fall of 2023, I presented my Memorial Collaborations exhibit in the DeVries Art Gallery at Kellogg Community College in Battle Creek, Michigan. This video is one of a series of 3 narrated slideshows I've created to describe the highlights from that show. I taught art full-time at Kellogg Community College from 1992 to 2021. After formal training in drawing and painting, I've spent the past 40 years mainly creating collages and mixed media works. My concept for a Memorial Collaborations exhibit was to produce a series of new works with each piece including some collage artifacts originally belonging to a deceased family member or friend. Some resulting artworks were specifically dedicated to a single posthumous collaborator, while other artworks, like the one in the picture here, ended up including items connected to more than one person. Despite the memento mori theme, I tried to approach most of the pieces with an interjection of humor to convey the love and fond memories that I had of these people that I was honoring. The exhibit focused on the following 9 memorial collaborators: Doris Ballard, Mike Ballard, Philip Carey, Cowboy Paul Edwards, Ken McCosh, Ed Scott, Tim Sikora, Galen Spalding, and Katie Williams. I provided brief biographies of each person that were posted in the gallery next to the artworks that I had connected to them. Part 1 of this presentation will summarize works I created for the following 3 of my symbolic collaborators. The other honorees will be discussed in Part 2 and Part 3 videos of this series. First up is my mother, Katie Williams. She was born in Detroit but lived most of her adult life in Hillsdale, Michigan. Along with my dad, John Williams, she raised 4 sons, with me being the youngest. When I was in grade school in the 1960s, my mom returned to college to finish a bachelor's degree in education she had begun when she married my dad in 1939. During the late 60s through the early 80s, she then worked as a 2nd grade classroom teacher, which was a huge inspiration for my own teaching career. This piece, dedicated to her, is called Katie's Cards. The piece is shown on the left and a detail is provided on the right. My mom was one of an 8-member monthly bridge club, and this was one of her favorite social activities. She hosted the group once or twice a year at our house. So for this Memorial Collaborations collage, I used hundreds of my mom's playing cards to create a rhythmic pattern by cutting, folding, and arranging the cards in rows. As I worked on this piece, lots of puns came to mind, and I was reminded of the song lyric, "You gotta know when to hold 'em and know when to fold 'em." Get it? With the detail on the right, notice the backs of the card decks. I was always intrigued as a kid that the designs ranged all the way from fine art reproductions of the Impressionists to simple folk art to still life and bird illustrations. Over the years, I've used card tables as an active part of several previous projects. Shown here are 2 details from a large installation of a pop culture exhibit that I presented at Muskegon Community College in 2009. I sometimes reuse parts of previous works, so in this case, I took one of my mom's old card tables that had been in the Muskegon show, and now for the Memorial Collaborations exhibit, I mounted it on the wall as a picture plane for the new Katie's Cards collage. This smaller collage, titled Mother's Day, features segments of greeting cards my mom received for the May holiday from various friends and family. As a representation of art for the masses, I was fascinated conceptually by the populist illustrations and the stock sentimental phrases and poetry, but to my mom, these cards were special items that she had carefully sorted and saved. Next up, a remarkable man, Mike Ballard, who was my father-in-law. He had been a star college athlete and in the Navy in World War II before settling in Marshall, Michigan. He went from an entry-level factory job to eventually becoming vice president of production for the Shearer Gillette company that manufactured commercial refrigeration cases. He had lots of hobbies, including darkroom photography, and he was an avid woodworker with a huge garage workshop. This piece, titled Retrospective Series Spicer Arts, was originally made in 2016 as a part of an exhibition my wife Jan and I presented at the Sheen Center in New York City. It features pottery fragments hinting at items we produced for Spicer Arts, a ceramic arts business my wife and I started in 1998. It was included in my memorial collaboration show because most of the boxes holding the pottery shards were made by Mike and used in his garage to hold nuts, bolts, screws, and other hardware. Although not intentional, this work certainly shows the indirect historical influence of Louise Nevelson's 1960s and 70s assemblages, one of which is shown on the right. Also dedicated to Mike Ballard is the three-piece wall installation titled Walnut Collection. The top part is an irregular piece of walnut wood with some cut line details that was left over from a massive tree removed near Mike's backyard. The middle piece's backing is from a walnut china cabinet Mike had made for his wife Doris that eventually was damaged and dismantled. A chunk of walnut covers on top of that with squirrel-chewed walnut shells glued on top. Mounted at the very bottom of the arrangement is a lid from a commercially made nutcracker case. To the left is a detail showing the amazing squirrel shell sculpting. This piece connects to Mike as a woodworker, but humorously links to his hobby of collecting and shelling walnuts each fall. He had a 23-mile route in the county and gathered bushels full of nuts to dry and shuck all winter. This production, of course, attracted every squirrel in Mike's entire neighborhood who were constantly breaking into his garage. My walnut collection piece makes a historical nod to Joseph Kossuth's famous 1965 piece, 1 and 3 Chairs, which is shown on the right. This conceptual masterpiece concerned the nature of reality, questioning whether the true chair was indicated by the physical example, the photographic representation, or the printed definition of a chair. A third piece was also dedicated to Mike Ballard. I titled this Moods for Moderns, and it uses leftover wooden parts from some of Mike's unfinished craft projects, and then I added my own fired ceramic rods and pieces into the composition. Next to Moods for Moderns, the pictures shown on the right indicate a historical link to Picasso as the father of early 20th century modernism, who blended new Cubist ideas with inspiration from tribal art. Now let's turn to Doris Ballard, who was Mike Ballard's wife and my mother-in-law. She was a wonderful cook and homemaker, and much of her identity was linked to her house at 407 North Liberty Street in Marshall, Michigan, a house that Mike had built himself back in 1951. After Doris passed in 2020, multiple gallon-sized Ziploc bags full of address labels were retrieved from her dining room buffet. Most of the address stickers were received in the mail as free gifts from various charities that she had donated to over the years. For the Memorial Collaborations exhibit, I decided to create background fields with these address labels, assisted by my wife Jan, and also my daughter Maya, who helped when she was home briefly for a visit. Once the backgrounds were complete, I mounted some artificial flowers on top of each collage, knowing I would create an effect reminiscent of Andy Warhol's work. Doris loved fake flowers, and even though she had nice real gardens that she maintained in her yard, the artificial flowers were practically even better than the real thing, and she had groupings of them sorted by color in her basement, ready for any occasion. Here's the main quartet of the Liberty Labels series, again, now next to an example of Andy Warhol's work on the right. Doris's son Jim Ballard, my brother-in-law, as well as his wife Laura, my sister-in-law, also each created a sticker background for me when they visited in the summer of 23. I combined each of their efforts to create this additional Liberty Labels collage, and this one was shown separately on the gallery wall apart from the original quartet of Liberty Labels. Somewhat similar to the Liberty Labels series, this collage is titled Flowers and Meatloaf. It was originally created in 2021, just weeks after Doris Ballard had passed at the remarkable age of 99. In 2023, I added some more to the background and then also mounted the bouquet of artificial flowers onto the top. This work pays homage to one of Doris's favorite meals. When she couldn't make meatloaf from scratch anymore, I often helped her grocery shop for frozen dinners. And then, of course, I saved the packaging. Beyond the connect to Doris, the humor of the title Flowers and Meatloaf is inspired by some roadside signs I used to pass on my way to work that advertised a local farm market. The small signs simply read, "Flowers and Meat," and I always enjoyed that simple summation of the farm market's offerings. If I ever start a Guns N' Roses cover band, I've decided that it will be named Flowers and Meat. Hopefully you've enjoyed this part 1 segment and learned a little bit about my Memorial Collaboration show. Continue on to separate part 2 and part 3 videos for more information about the artworks in this exhibit. Thanks for watching. For now, this is Professor Pete signing off on Memorial Collaborations Part 1.